Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are taking you to a place that really should be the picture of peace. Hyvinkää, Finland.
Yeah, a commuter town north of Helsinki. Pretty idyllic, usually.
Exactly. But in 1998, this town, it was rocked by a crime so brutal, so strange, and frankly so disturbing to everyone that the Finnish government did something pretty extraordinary.
And that's really the hook here, isn't it? This constraint, the entire legal file for this case, and this includes the victim's actual identity. He's still legally just male A.
Still, after all this time.
Still. That and huge chunks of the police investigation, the trial records, it's all sealed, completely locked away from public view, from the press, everything, until 2038.
2038, that's 40 years. 40 years of official secrecy for a murder case, not, state secrets or military plans.
Tells you something, doesn't it? It signals just how worried the authorities were about the details, about causing maybe lasting social panic or harm if the full, raw truth got out.
Okay, so our job today, our mission for this deep dive, it's going to be tricky.
Right. We have to work with what is known. The facts that came out during the initial investigation, the bits of public testimony from the trial, what we know about the perpetrator's psychology, we'll try to piece together what happened.
And we need to look at the specifics, right? Like this nihilistic doctrine the main perpetrator had.
Definitely. And also the context of the time. You can't understand this case without understanding the whole satanic panic thing in the 1990s, how that influenced the legal side, the sentencing.
And the sentencing itself is a big part of this story. A life sentence that, well, wasn't really life in the way many might think.
Exactly. So let's dive in.
Okay, let's start with Hyvinkää itself, because the contrast is just stark. You said it, a peaceful town, around 47,000 people back then, developed, modern.
And known for being safe. Violent crime, almost unheard of. Just wasn't a thing there.
A picture of suburban calm. But our forces do point to one sort of underlying issue, kind of bubbling beneath the surface, especially with the youth.
Yeah, that was the drinking culture. It seems pretty common in quieter places sometimes, Teenagers, not much else to do, maybe turn to getting heavily intoxicated.
And it wasn't just casual drinking, was it?
No, it sounds like it was often fueled by this really cheap, potent stuff. Imported spirits, maybe poorly made homebrew, stuff that hit hard and fast. They even had a nickname for it.
Kill juice. That says a lot.
It does. And, this environment led to the usual low-level stuff, bit of vandalism, maybe some drunken fights, public disturbance calls, but nothing, absolutely nothing that prepared anyone for what was coming.
Which brings us to November 24th, 1998, the day the town's self-image just shattered. Because the discovery wasn't just a crime, it was bizarre. A single human leg severed, found in the local landfill.
Can you imagine the shock? And immediately the police are facing huge problems.
Yeah, like who did it belong to?
Right. First hurdle, okay, it's male, based on the size, the hair, but the age. Could be anywhere from 20 to 60, based just on that leg. That's a massive range.
And the location, the landfill. That wasn't just for Hyvinkää, was it?
No, that's the killer detail. That landfill took trash from the entire Uusimaa region around Hyvinkää. We're talking over 1 million people. The leg could have come from anywhere, dumped in a bin miles away.
So the investigation is immediately crippled. Where do you even start?
It forced this massive, almost unthinkable response. They basically had to assume the rest of the body or other evidence might be somewhere in that mountain of trash deposited around the estimated time of death.
Which meant searching it, all of it.
Manually. It was this huge, grueling operation. Police officers, even cadets fresh from the academy, brought in to literally sift through garbage, bucket by bucket, in horrible conditions.
Just wading through trash looking for anything?
Yeah. And the scale was so big, the scene so important, they actually brought in the Finnish military.
The military. To guard a landfill.
To secure the perimeter, treat the entire landfill as one enormous crime scene. That's how serious it was.
And for a whole week, nothing.
Nothing but garbage. Then, finally, a breakthrough. But it was tiny. A small piece of human stomach tissue.
Doesn't sound like much.
No, but it was everything. They rushed it for DNA analysis, confirmed it matched the leg. But the real gold was the forensic examination of the tissue itself.
What did that show?
It narrowed things down dramatically. Male, yes, but now aged 20 to 30. A history of heavy drinking for years, likely affecting his health, suggesting maybe a lower-income background, maybe on benefits. And crucially,
yes,
he was very, very drunk when he died. significantly intoxicated.
Okay, so that profile changes everything. They're no longer just digging randomly.
Exactly. The massive landfill search was eventually called off just before Christmas, actually. 4 weeks of digging yielded nothing more physical. But that forensic profile, that was the key.
So where did they look next? Not in the trash anymore.
Welfare records, Social Security, they started looking for people matching that profile. Young man, heavy drinker, likely on benefits who had suddenly stopped collecting payments, just vanished off the books.
And did that work?
It did. The system flagged a 23-year-old man, lived only about 20 kilometers, maybe 12 miles from the landfill. Fit the profile perfectly. Low income, known drinker, and crucially, he'd just disappeared without telling anyone.
And this is Male A, still legally anonymous until 2038.
That's him.
And the detail about him not being reported missing. That's really sad.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? Profoundly isolated, living alone. The fact that nobody raised the alarm for weeks suggests he didn't have much contact with family, or maybe they were estranged.
Which not only made him vulnerable,
But it also gave the perpetrators time to try and dispose of the evidence, hoping he'd never be found.
so identifying Male A brings the investigation right back to Heaving K, to his circle.
Yes. Who was he last seen with? Investigators quickly zeroed in on this small group of friends. They stood out locally, apparently. Known for dressing in black, very into heavy metal, that kind of goth or black metal aesthetic.
And specific names started to surface.
2 main ones initially, Jano Elg and Mika Riska. Riska, he was known to the police, but for minor stuff. Fights, vandalism, the kind of thing linked to that youth drinking culture we talked about.
Okay, so more nuisance level. But Elg,
Elg was different. He had a record, more serious things in his past, including time locked up. Ideologically motivated stuff, too, not just random trouble.
so based on Elg's record and the connection to Male A, the police search his place.
They get a warrant, yeah, and search his small flat. What they find initially is, well, it's the kind of stuff that the media would later run wild with.
Like what?
Notes referring to the Bible of Satan. Some ornate-looking knives, maybe ceremonial, maybe just decorative. Skull decorations. And one very specific item, a gold-plated pendant with 666 engraved on it.
Okay, and we have to pause here because this is 1998, the tail end of the whole satanic panic era.
Absolutely critical context in the media, in the public mind. Finding stuff like that immediately screamed satanic ritual abuse, devil worship, all those tropes.
Even if it was just, paraphernalia related to a subculture or a personal philosophy.
Right. But for the police, those items combined with the circumstances, it absolutely justified tearing the place apart, looking much, much closer.
Did that closer look reveal anything more concrete?
Oh, yeah. It revealed the horror. They found blood, lots of it, traces of blood and DNA scrubbed, but not well enough on the floors, even low down on the ceilings, in the bathroom, inside a cupboard.
Everywhere.
Pretty much everywhere. The sheer amount, the spread of it suggested extreme violence. Not a quick event, but something prolonged, messy. And the fact that someone had tried so hard to clean it up pointed to how bad it must have been.
So the evidence is overwhelming. But the arrests, they happen fast. No long chase.
No, very quick. December 8th, 1998, they arrest 4 people, all connected to Male A. There's Jano Elg, 23, Mika Riska, 21, Terry Turbashaka, who was only 17, and another boy, 16 years old, whose name is protected because he was a minor.
And Elg's reaction when arrested.
This is chilling. Investigators described him as disturbingly calm. He didn't deny anything. He just told them what happened. And the sources say he wasn't nervous, wasn't remorseful. He actually laughed while describing some of the most horrific parts.
Laughed.
Yeah, as if he enjoyed it, took satisfaction in it.
That's terrifying. It really signals this wasn't just a fight that got out of hand. There's something else going on here, an ideology.
Exactly. To understand the crime, you really have to understand Jano Elg. His background is key.
Okay, so tell us about him. Born in 1975.
Yeah, and into a family with some serious struggles. Sources mention severe mental health issues with his siblings. Schizophrenia reported suggests maybe a predisposition to instability in the family.
And his own childhood.
Rough. He was bullied badly at school, started abusing substances incredibly young by age 10.
10 years old.
10, led to multiple suicide attempts, which in turn led to repeated stays in psychiatric facilities in Finland.
Wow. And somewhere along the line, he finds black metal.
He immerses himself in it. Yeah. And not just the music, but the whole culture, the aesthetic, long black hair, the violent band shirts, the whole intimidating look. But for him, it seems it was more than just music appreciation. It became an ideological anchor.
An ideology that led to crime.
His first major offense, yeah. At 16, in 1991, he tries to burn down a local medieval church. A wooden one.
Why? Just random destruction.
No, it seems directly inspired by that wave of church burnings happening in the black metal scene in Norway and Sweden at the time. It was an ideological statement for him. He got caught, sentenced to nearly 2 years in juvenile detention for that arson attempt.
And coming out of detention, did things get better?
Worse, really. He doubled down on substance abuse, alcohol dependency, and this is when he really starts to formalize his personal philosophy, which he called Satanism. But we need to be really clear here.
About what it wasn't.
Exactly. It wasn't the kind of devil worship the media loved to portray during the Satanic Panic. He wasn't, sacrificing goats to a literal Satan.
So what was it then?
It was more like an extreme form of atheistic Satanism, taking ideas from people like Anton LaVey's self-worship, individualism, but twisting them into something much darker, purely self-serving, violent nihilism.
How so? What was the core idea?
Basically, do whatever you want, feel absolutely no guilt, reject all morals, all laws, all empathy, all consequences. The only thing that mattered was what felt good to him, what gave him a sense of power or satisfaction in the moment.
He essentially created a philosophical justification for being completely amoral, for dominating others.
Pretty much. And this extreme ideology, the certainty he projected, it actually drew people to him, especially vulnerable people, maybe people he met during his psych stays, who were also looking for answers or structure outside the mainstream.
Like Terry Trevishanka and Mika Riska.
Exactly. Terry's story is interesting. Came from a stable, middle-class family, but things went off the rails around age 14 with severe addiction issues. Ran away from home. She met Elg in a psychiatric facility in the summer of '98, just months before the murder.
And he offered her
Well,
structure, belonging.
Something like that. A guide, maybe, but into chaos, not stability. She moved in with him pretty quickly, fell completely under his influence. Mika Riska was similar, another former patient drawn to Elg's charismatic but totally twisted authority.
So Elg wasn't just a friend in this group. He was the leader,
Yeah,
the guru almost.
definitely the leader. And he was constantly pushing boundaries, testing his own philosophy, which leads us to something deeply disturbing that happened just a month before the murder. A kind of foreshadowing.
What was that?
October 1998, he killed his own dog, but it wasn't quick. He tied it to a radiator, beat it with a metal pipe, and then just sat there and watched it die.
Why? Why do that?
It demonstrated his complete detachment, his ability to inflict pain, not out of anger necessarily, but almost experimentally, for enjoyment. It showed a total lack of empathy, a disregard for life. It was like practice, a final confirmation that he was ready, willing to take his philosophy to its absolute violent end.
Okay, so that sets a truly chilling stage for the night of November 21st, 1998.
Right. The group Elg, Terry, Mika, the 16-year-old kid, and Melee, they're all together, all heavily intoxicated, wandering around Hyvinkė, dressed in their usual black clothes.
And they have an encounter that night.
Yeah, kind of a strange one. They bump into a group of young people from a local church youth group, near the church, actually.
Was it violent?
No, apparently not. Elg gets into this debate with them, telling them Christianity is a waste of time, but also, interestingly, correcting them about Satanism, saying, it's not devil worship, it's about philosophy, about the self. It's like he needed to assert his intellectual dominance before they headed back to his flat.
Right, asserting his worldview. So they go back to Elg's place. The atmosphere is what?
Tense, apparently. Sources say Male A had already been getting on Elg's nerves somehow, though it's not clear exactly why. Before the final incident, they're all drinking more. And then Elg puts on an album, his favorite album.
The Canian Chronicle by Ancient. A black metal band.
That's the one. And Male A, well, he makes a mistake. A fatal one in Elg's eyes.
What does he do?
He just gives his honest opinion. Says he doesn't really like the band, doesn't care for the album. Just a simple, offhand comment.
And that's the trigger. Seriously.
That was it. For Elg, that was a direct violation. Disrespecting his lair, disrespecting his taste, his identity, which was so wrapped up in this music, he just snapped. Punched Melee hard, knocked him to the ground.
And the others join in.
The 16-year-old jumps in immediately, maybe trying to prove himself to Elg, get in his favor.
And it escalates from a punch to something much worse.
Oh, much worse. It stops being a fight and becomes torture, humiliation. Terry and the kid drag Male A, who's really drunk by now, onto the sofa. Elg leaves the room for a moment.
And comes back with
The dog collar, the studded one he'd presumably used before, and a loosh, The same tools he used on his dog.
Oh,
He forces male A to wear the collar, makes him crawl around the flat like an animal while the black metal is blasting, turned up super loud deliberately to drown out any noise, any screams.
and the abuse continues.
It gets worse. The sources are graphic. The group takes turns urinating on him, burning him with a hot iron. Then L grabs a pair of scissors and starts stabbing him repeatedly in the head.
While he's still alive. Begging.
Yeah. Male A is pleading for his life, promising he won't say anything, just let him go. But according to Elg's twisted logic, that pleading, that weakness, just made him angrier. It confirmed Elg's power over him.
Does he try to escape?
He does. At one point, he makes a break for the door, tries to run, but they catch him, drag him back inside.
And that's when they decide to restrain him.
Right, to stop him trying again and to shut him up. Elg tells Terry to get duct tape. They tape his arms, his legs, and then, to silence the screams for good, they wrap the tape around his entire head, covering his mouth, his nose, everything.
Sealing it completely.
Completely. And that was the fatal act. He couldn't breathe. Male A suffocated, probably quite quickly, though it seems they might not have realized it immediately. They might have continued the assault for a bit until he stopped struggling altogether.
So he's dead. But it doesn't end there.
Not even close. For Elg, death wasn't the end of his control or his project. Fueled by his philosophy, maybe by the alcohol, the drugs, he grabs a knife and starts mutilating the body.
Mutilating how?
The details are horrific. Removing pieces of flesh, taking out the heart, the intestines, the genitals. It's at this point, apparently, that the 16-year-old just couldn't take anymore and fled the flat, leaving Elg, Terry, and Mika.
And the three of them, they do something else, something even more taboo.
Yes. This is where the cannibalism comes in. Elg, Terry, and Mika consume some of the flesh that was removed.
They actually ate parts of him.
According to the sources, yes. After that, they decapitated male A, and the description is just nightmarish, tossing the severed head around the room like it was a toy, laughing.
Treating it like nothing.
Utter contempt, total dehumanization. Eventually, they drag the rest of the remains into the bathroom and dismember it further with a saw.
The sheer level of desecration is hard to comprehend.
And the chaos continued into the next morning. They wake up, hungover, the flat is a wreck, and they realize they can't find the head.
They lost the head in that small flat.
Apparently so. After searching around, they find it hidden in a cupboard. And reportedly, the absurdity of it, finding the lost head, made them laugh again, just completely detached from the reality of what they'd done.
But the desecration still wasn't finished.
One final grotesque act. One of them, it's not clear who rips out male A's eyes. Then they stuff firecrackers into the empty sockets and into the skull itself and light them, blowing the skull apart.
Studio. Why? What possible reason?
Sheer nihilistic destruction, a final insult. It's impossible to rationalize from a normal perspective. After that, Mika and the 16-year-old, who came back at some point, start planning the disposal. Terry is frantically trying to clean up the blood everywhere.
And their plan was to scatter the pieces.
Yeah, put the different body parts in different rubbish bins around Heaving K. The idea was to make it impossible to identify him, impossible to piece together what happened, make him vanish completely.
A plan that failed the moment that first leg was found at the landfill, the central collection point.
Exactly. And apparently, Elg and Terry were following the news closely in the days after. When the story broke about the leg being found, they knew it was over. They knew the police would connect the dots eventually, which led to the arrests on December 8th.
Okay, let's talk about the trial. Elg in court.
Still calm.
Still defiant.
Completely. No remorse whatsoever. Smirking, even smiling at times. And he didn't just confess, he justified it. Claimed it was consistent with his satanic beliefs, his personal rules.
The rules he mentioned?
Yeah, he cited 3 specific ones he claimed male A broke by criticizing the music, basically. Don't give opinions unless asked. Respect your host's lair or stay away. And rule 3.
The chilling one.
If a guest in your house annoys you, treat them cruelly and without mercy. He presented it like a logical application of his own personal law.
Incredible. And the trial itself, it wasn't fully public, right?
No, and that's significant. Because of the nature of the crime, the cannibalism, the mutilation, the whole Satanism angle, and the massive public reaction, the hysteria, the court decided to hold most of it behind closed doors.
Why? To protect the public.
It's essentially, yeah, to prevent more panic, more sensationalism. Only the parts where they entered pleas and the final sentencing were open to the press and public. Everything else, all the graphic testimony, was kept private. Part of why so much is still sealed today.
So the sentences, what did they get? Elk first?
Elg was found guilty of murder and also for torturing and killing his dog earlier. He was sentenced to life imprisonment.
And Terry Tervishanka, the 17-year-old.
She underwent a psychiatric evaluation. They found her partially insane, meaning she had diminished responsibility. But crucially, the court decided she did still understand the difference between right and wrong at the time. She got 8.5 years.
8.5 for participating in that.
Seems lenient by many standards, yes. Mika Reska, the other main participant, was found guilty of assault, the cannibalism, and helping dispose of the body. He received 2 years and 8 months.
Even shorter. And the youngest, the 16-year-old.
He was found not guilty. The court concluded he'd basically been manipulated, maybe coerced, by the older members, particularly Elg, that he was swept up in it rather than being a primary instigator.
Okay. Now that life imprisonment for Elg, we need to unpack what that actually means in Finland, especially back then.
Right. It's not like in the U.S. where life often means life or life without parole. In Finland, particularly in the 90s, a life sentence meant an indefinite period, but with eligibility for parole review after a set minimum time.
Which was?
Generally around 12 years back then. 12 years minimum for this crime. You can imagine the public reaction to that both in Finland and internationally. It seemed incredibly short, given the sheer brutality.
It reflects a different philosophy of justice, I suppose. Focus on rehabilitation.
Very much so. The Finnish system historically emphasizes rehabilitation and reintegration over purely punitive long sentences, which explains why Elg actually started getting day releases relatively early on.
But that didn't go smoothly, did it?
No. His day release privileges were revoked pretty quickly after he got into a bar fight, assaulted 2 people, knocked one out cold, showed the violence was still very much there, that rehabilitation wasn't working, at least not yet.
Yet, despite that, he was eventually released.
He was. Fully released in 2016, he ended up serving 17 years in total.
And since 2016, what's known about him?
Sources suggest he's actually managed to stay out of trouble. He reportedly went back to finish his education, got qualifications, and now works a steady job somewhere undisclosed. No known reoffenses since his final release.
Which is remarkable in a way. Hard to square with the person who laughed while describing torture.
It presents a real challenge to our ideas about rehabilitation and justice, doesn't it?
What about Terry? Her path after prison seems even rockier. She only served 4 years.
Just 4 years of her 8.5-year sentence, released in 2003. She tried to disappear, changed her name, moved, tried to get work.
But it didn't last.
She reoffended. Horrifically. June 7th, 2007. 4 years after getting out, she gets into an argument, apparently over drugs, in a pub, gets violent. She grabs a billhook like a heavy curved knife and stabs a man repeatedly in the face, kills him instantly.
Another murder.
Yes. She actually called the police herself, confessed right away. That got her another sentence, this time 10 years. It just raised huge questions about her first sentence. The psych evaluations. Was she really fit for release back in 2003?
And her time in prison for the second murder wasn't quiet either.
No. She married another inmate, also a convicted killer. She even escaped briefly in 2011, got caught trying to smuggle drugs back into the prison for her husband later on. Just constant chaos.
Then another turn, like Elg.
It seems so. Reports indicate she finally got clean and sober around 2013. After serving her time for the second murder, she was released. She and her husband moved away, apparently started a family, have a child together, and again, crucially, no known reoffenses since that final release.
So both Elg and Terry, after these incredibly violent histories and subsequent issues, seem to be living somewhat normal lives now.
Based on the available information, yes. Which makes Terry's statements about the original crime even more interesting, looking back.
She gave an interview.
Yeah, back in 2000, while she was serving her first sentence. And she expressed zero guilt about male A's death.
Zero. How did she explain it?
She basically framed it as an accident caused by intoxication. Said they only used the duct tape to shut him up because he was being loud and annoying, didn't realize it would kill him. She completely downplayed the intentionality of the torture, and she strongly denied it had anything to do with devil worship, blaming the whole ritual narrative on media hype and public panic.
So summing this all up, the speed of it all, from a stupid comment about music to that level of atrocity, driven by Elg's really warped personal code?
That's one key takeaway. The other is this huge clash between the crime's absolute brutality and the Finnish justice system's focus on minimum terms and rehabilitation. Seeing the main players free after, 17 and 14 years total served, respectively. It forces you to ask what justice really means in a case like this.
But the thing that hangs over everything, the reason we're even talking about it this way, is the secrecy. The fact that the state decided this was so bad, it caused so much panic, that the full story had to be locked away for 40 years.
Exactly. What is it that we still don't know? What details are in those sealed files, the full confessions? Specifics about the ritualism they decided was too disturbing. Details about male A himself. It must be something truly awful if the parts we do know are already this extreme.
It leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
Mhm.
What could possibly be worse than cannibalism and dismemberment described with laughter?
And that really leads to the final thought for you, the listener. The state made a judgment call back then that society couldn't handle the full truth, that sealing the files was necessary to manage public memory and maybe prevent copycats or prolonged hysteria.
But now Elg and Terry are out there, reportedly living normal lives, maybe rehabilitated, maybe just laying low. The question isn't just about their personal redemption, it's about what happens in 2038.
Right. When those files are finally opened, decades later, will learning the remaining horrors actually change anything? Will it alter the public perception of the justice served? Or will 40 years have made it just history? A story that's lost its power to truly shock or to influence how we deal with such extreme acts in the future. What does revealing the rest of the horror achieve then?